Everyone, this is Akshay Mehra here, CEO of Crowd-Genie, and this is hopefully one of multiple such videos that we make over what I believe is a unique proposition that we have for Crowd-Genie and why it may be of interest to you to invest in our ICO. All our details are there at the bottom of the page. Um, but today I want to talk a little bit about about licensing and how and why licensing, especially in this sector, is very important. And hopefully at the end of all of this, you get a sense of whether you invest with us or with somebody else. Just make sure that you ask the right questions, and you do your due diligence on making sure that whoever you're investing in has the right framework to kind of protect your interest. Yeah. So let's start off. So we as CrowdGenie have a securities license called CMSL license, Capitals Market Securities License, which is issued by the Monetary Authority of Singapore. Um, we are one of very few companies in the market that have one. In fact, there are probably four or five total crowdfunding platforms that have been licensed in Singapore. And just to give you perspective, till December, January, we in Singapore had around 14 to 15 platforms that were out there, all claiming to be crowdfunding platforms. And as the licensing regime came in, a lot of them just disappeared. And only the three or four of us who kind of had the right processes in place were the ones who really kind of, got the license. So why is that important? So first thing first is P2P or small business crowdfunding or small business lending, whichever nomenclature that you use, is really a regulated activity in most places in the world, right? Especially so in Singapore. And quite rightly so, because you're handling the funds of investors or lenders who in turn who in turn are sending it to the borrowers. So you want to make sure that everything is kosher and everything kind of works well. Now, the reason license becomes difficult is, as I keep telling everybody, just if you have money, that does not mean that you're getting a license. Because regulators are not just looking at your capital, they're also looking at a lot of other stuff that you have done as an organization or as a team to give them the confidence that if they give you the license, you will kind of make sure that you will protect the interests of all the stakeholders. So MAS, for instance, is Singapore is one of the financial hearts of the world, and MAS is quite rightly proud of its record and reputation. So when they give out a license, it's significantly more credible, more valuable than a lot of other geographies in the world, right? And to ensure that we've done the right have the right rigor, if you will, in getting the license. What they make us do is make sure that they've gone through every aspect of our operations very thoroughly. Just for perspective, our license application took almost 6 to 8 months to get through because there were lots of questions. They've made us make sure that we codified a lot of our processes, and only then we kind of made the cut, if you will. And a lot of other platforms just dropped by along the way, and they just couldn't make that. Yeah. So what are the kind of protection that MAS has kind of asked us to put in? So first, all my books are on a monthly basis uploaded to MAS. So MAS knows exactly how many loans we've given, what my capital is, what is my P&L, how many people are in my team, right? So even if, for instance, I've had questions from people like on the chat group saying that how do I know really that you're doing what you're doing correctly? My answer to them is, even if you don't know, MAS knows it much better and much faster than you would. And if I fall off, I'll get wrapped very badly on my knuckles, right? So that's one. Secondly, as protection, all of the funds that we hold, that investors kind of put in, as lenders put in, are actually held by an escrow. We don't touch it. So again, that's a kind of protection that suppose tomorrow, our company doesn't exist. Crowd-Genie doesn't exist. The fact is that the lenders will still get the money because the funds will come directly from the borrowers to the lenders and will lie in the escrow agent, and escrow has full independence in making sure that the lenders get paid in the proportion that they have invested. So, that again is a much better security than funds coming to, for example, the company itself. Right. The third thing that the regulators make sure is how good we are with our KYC and the due diligence. The reality is that the world has terrorism. We have to kind of make sure there's anti-money laundering processes in place. And these are things that every regulator, every good regulator or credible regulator will make sure are always in place. And one of the biggest important things that we have to do is to make sure that we have a very good understanding of where the money comes from and who's kind of a participant on our platform. So in fact, as a quick aside, if you go through a white paper, you'll see there's a module as we build the asset exchange of digital passport, which actually is essentially what we're already doing right now, but we just take it into the blockchain and give people a digital passport that's verified by Crowd-Genie. Yeah. So we've got the escrow agent also signed up. And the escrow agent is a Singapore entity, again, which is important from the regulatory standpoint. And the last thing that I would say is from a license standpoint is you will see a lot of crowdfunding, P2P, business lending platforms who are doing ICO out there right now. So my advice to people who are looking to evaluate us versus a lot of the other guys is just make sure that you really understand that the regulatory aspect of that is clearly articulated and they are regulated or licensed somewhere in a geography that is very, very credible. The reason is that it may be easy to kind of solve the technology challenges, but sometimes the regulatory and the licensing challenges are much, much more difficult to solve. And as a result of it, even though if I have a greatest business plan, if I cannot have a license, I essentially cannot operate. And if I can't operate, there's no way the ICO or whatever the funds have been collected for that ICO are ever going to be utilized. So you're kind of then looking at a dead investment, if you will, right? So make sure that you kind of have the right question. Which is the geography from which you have the license? What kind of license that you have? Does that a license have a credibility that says what are the kind of processes on customer protection that are built into that? Once you are comfortable with that, then for sure kind of look at figuring out whether that's the right investment for you or not. Yeah. I'm going to keep this short, but I hope I've been able to kind of give you some perspective on why we believe that having a license, especially in a geography like Singapore for Crowd-Genie, really puts us unique in this ecosystem where there are so many kind of options out there on ICOs who promise a lot in the future, but probably may not be able to deliver just because there may be external issues that they have not even thought about, right? So hopefully you enjoyed this video and we'll kind of keep this conversation going. Thank you.